Great. Let's start a conversation. But before we get into everything, I mean, I'll give you a chance to respond to the conversation about land, Honorable Ablaka. But Nana Kumi, how's the campaign going?
Well, thank you, Winston. The campaign is going very, very well. It's exceeding our expectations when we were drawing up the movement plan for our flag bearer. And the response on the ground in all the places that he has been, they've exceeded our expectations. So we are very, very happy with what is happening. He's engaged now in a tour of the northern regions, Savannah, northeast, northwest. And the message resonates with the people on the ground. Yesterday, he was telling the people about how he was going to deal with the cost of living. And he was telling them about some of the main drivers that drive up cost of living in this country and how he was going to tackle them to get them under control and to keep the cost of living under control. He identified the cedi dollar, that any time the price of the dollar went up, it automatically transferred to a rise in the cost of living because we are heavily dependent on imports. So there has to be a determined effort to move the country away from imports. Some of the things that we import, these are not high-tech, chicken, rice, and so on. And incidentally, over the last couple of years, the rice import bill has dropped by about 40%. The amount of rice that we are importing has dropped dramatically. We have to put that same aggression into, say, chicken and some of the low-hanging things that we can produce in this country. Is going to put a new energy into them. Some of the factories that are strategic, if you check the figures for floor tiles now, I think there are two main factories producing floor tiles in this country. One in 2nd D, that's your area.
Yeah.
I've forgotten the name of the company. And then the second one, I think the Sopon area also. And if you look at the import bill for floor tiles, it's gone down quite a bit. These local companies are doing nearly 50% of the market. So such companies have to be identified and concentrated on. So we don't spread too wide. We concentrate and do aggressive import substitution so that our import bill or the demand for the dollar will come down. He also plans to support the city with the gold purchase program, which we haven't had in this country. Gold is money. Gold is international currency. And we produce gold. Many of these countries with stable currencies, whose currencies are convertible, the so-called the pound sterlings and the dollars and so on. The euros, a lot of it is backed by gold. The UK, for example, have over 3,000 tons of gold and sitting under the Bank of England that supports the currency. The Americans have over 8,000 tons of gold that supports the US dollar when needed. Germany also has over 3,000 tons. We produce the gold. We didn't have 10 tons, but gold can be used. And you buy the gold in cedi, and then you store it. So there's going to be a massive gold purchase program to also support the city. In addition to he also identified housing as a major cost of the cost of living, because everybody must have accommodation, and if the price of accommodation goes up, it will affect the cost of living.
Okay.
It's identified land and infrastructure as a major cost of the drive of the cost of housing. He is going to engage in a massive land registration program. The chiefs and the landowners are going to be able to register their lands for free, because the registration costs a lot, and there's a long procedure. It's going to allow everybody to register their land for free, and there will be digital registration, so that in a few short years you would have every land in this country covered under a digital registration, so you can always check it out.
Okay.
And then he's going to buy.
Finally.
He's going to buy a minute and a half. He's going to buy land and put in infrastructure that would then be leased out to private estate developers, so that the cost of land and the litigation that goes with it and the provision of infrastructure that beef up the cost of housing will be reduced. And then transport is another driver. There's going to be a massive introduction of electric buses for public transportation. So we move away from petrol and diesel, which are affected by the price of oil. Batteries would provide a flat cost regime for transport. And I'm in transport, and I know how devastating to the industry when the petrol price go up and so on.
Okay.
It's going to do a massive introduction of electric buses. And also, lastly, since we don't have a lot of time, energy, the cost of electricity. There's going to be a massive solar program in this country. It's going to build capacity for 2,000 megawatts of solar. That would provide a flat cost for energy, and that would also hold down energy as a source of the rise in the cost of living. And this year's message has been received very well by the electorate, and we are very happy with what is going on.
All right, so let me get to Honorable Ablakwa. How's the campaign going?
Well, first of all, I will be remiss if I do not convey my profound appreciation to the Ghanaian people. This is my first program since our major victory over the sale of our Senate hotels. 60% of the shares, controlling shares, were about to be given to the Minister for Food and Agriculture. I had to blow the alarm as part of my parliamentary oversight duties. And since the expose, the Ghanaian people have rallied, particularly organized labor. Organized labor has been phenomenal in standing their grounds and saying enough is enough. The state capture cannot be allowed to continue. And in an unprecedented move, I don't remember the last time we saw anything like this. Perhaps since 1948, when all the workers and the traders said, look, we are going to give the final push towards our total independence. I want to salute organized labor. And we saw that for the first time, buyers were running out of the transaction, and the government had to issue 2 statements over the weekend. The Senate board chair, the first one almost at midnight on Friday, and then Saturday afternoon, a signed one this time, begging the Ghanaian people that they will finally listen, that clearly they can't continue with the intransigence, the recalcitrance, and the total belligerence. So I want to celebrate the Ghanaian people. And the lesson in this victory is that when we put the country first, when we put the national interest first, and we subdue all other sectarian interests, whether partisan, whether professional, ethnic, what have you, we are capable of achieving great success and putting our country forward, transforming this nation in the way and manner. Because it's the only way the politicians will listen. When the politicians see that, look, the people will no longer countenance your intransigence, they will have to back off. And so I want to celebrate the Ghanaian people. And you in the media, you have also been particularly fair to all sides in this matter. I recall that you've had a number of interviews with me here to throw more light on the issues. And I want to also thank you. This victory is also your victory. Some people have tried to personalize the victory. Not at all. It's not a personal victory. But for the Ghanaian people rising up and rallying, and you in the media, Joy FM in particular, supporting this crusade, we will not have made the gains that we have made. So now that I have conveyed come to the campaign, first of all, former President Mahama is doing very well. I was in Moscow with him only a few days ago. He's well and hearty. And what happened in Moscow was really, really, as a Ghanaian, you must feel proud. The Moscow, that's the Russian Academy of Sciences, based in Moscow, a 300-year-old institution, one of the intellectual powerhouses in the world. And they told us at the session that it is only the second time they are translating the book of an African leader.
Okay.
The first person was Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, of course.
Oh, okay.
I Speak of Freedom. And they say it was a sensational bestseller since they translated into the Russian language. And you know the Russian language, many people probably have not averted their minds, but that language is spoken very, very widely, even way out of the Russian country. And you know that Russia has been a kingdom in time past. If you look at our historical landscape. So all the way as far into Israel and many parts of Europe, you have Russian-speaking people. So to have the former president's book, My First Coup d'etat and Other Stories from the Lost Decades of Africa, being translated, is such an honor. It's an honor to all of us. And it was not a partisan event at all. I want to commend President Akufo-Addo's envoy to Russia, the ambassador, who was one of the special guests invited by the Academy of Sciences to really add her glory to the ceremony. Very beautiful ceremony, and I am happy and proud that we have two Ghanaian leaders who are making us all proud. On the campaign trail, whilst he's been away, our running mate, Professor Nana Jenopoku-Agyemang, has been very, very busy. She went to the Medina market to engage with the market woman there. She had to do a donation and empathize with them following a fire outbreak at the Medina market recently, you'll recall. She then moved to the Amasama market as well. They also have their own challenges. And when she meets the woman, she has been putting across our very impactful gender transforming messages. Key amongst them is the Women's Development Bank. For a long time, research after research has shown that our women, our traders in particular, who really, if we're talking about the backbone of this economy, is our market women. But they have not had access to capital, access to credit. It is still a major challenge. And even though Maslog was established, we all know that Maslog has not been able to fill that void. So we are talking about a specialized Women's Development Bank that will be managed by women, run by women. Everybody will be a woman in that bank, and women understand their issues better. They know how to really extend support, revamp their businesses. And you know how businesses have been struggling under this bankrupt economy. For the first time in the history of our country, we have seen all of these downgrades, junk status from Moody's, Fitch and Poor's, Moody's, Fitch, Standard and Poor's. All the sovereign credit rating agencies have downgraded us. You've seen the domestic debt exchange program that we've all had to be subjected to, and because of that, it's the business folks who have been hit the most. Okay. Their businesses have collapsed. A lot of them are struggling. They've laid off workers. So for our women, this Women Development Bank is something that's really resonating with them. The flag bearer himself, you know that before he left for this prestigious Russian Academy of Sciences engagement, he met with the media, which is something the current government has been running away from for years. And you wonder what they have to hide. It's been more than 4 years since President Akufo-Addo engaged the media. as for the running mate, he's made history. The only person to have become flag bearer without any media engagement, because they are running away. He knows that his terrible record will be exposed. And listening to Nana Komia this morning, you wonder if they are in opposition. You have a candidate who is the vice president, who is the current head of the economic management team, and all of these ideas you want us to consider. Why are they not being implemented now? And why is it that these your great ideas have plunged us into the worst economic crisis that we have ever seen? So unlike President Mohammed's opponents who are running away from the media, you have the former president open up to the media more than 3 hours. He said, ask me any question. And it was not only friendly media. The invitation was wide and open. Okay. Everybody was there to ask every question imaginable. And you've seen the reviews. Everybody has said that, look, this is clearly a leader who has gravitas, who knows his stuff, who is on top of his brief. This is a leader who has the know-how. And if it is about grit, it is about having the depth of knowledge to bring us out of the current quagmire. The former president is the man. And
So-
and I want to thank the media.
On that note,
for
let's
all
get
the
to
support.
land. Let's get to our conversation now. So, in 10 minutes, you've heard from the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources. He's responded. He says he's issued a statement to you. Then you've introduced other things. The things you brought, he's dealt with them. You go back and introduce other things, as if he's running away from things. He doesn't want to play the politics. But now he's prepared to release the list of all those who have bought state lands, in this country.
Listening to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources this morning, it is clear that this country has a very, very big problem. When leaders will continue to engage in obfuscation, in naked partisanship, in unbridled equalization, we cannot make progress. The minister's statement was deliberately selective and skewed to achieve a partisan aim of equalization. And even that, he has fallen on his own sword. Nobody can accuse me of raising new matters after the minister's statement. If you are going to respond to state capture, respond to all of them. The tall list of lands and state capture cases I have put out after his statement are well known. They are not new matters. Take the Bulgarian embassy demolition, for example. Is that new? You remember this matter? And I have been talking about this for years. I broke the story that the Bulgarian embassy has been demolished. Following my expose, the government set up a sole inquirer to look into the matter. So the Sole Inquirers Commission, chaired by Justice Anto Ofuriata, has put out a damning report. When you listen to the minister this morning, he deliberately hides the fact that the person who benefited from this demolition, who took over the land and was hurriedly constructing, as we speak, because of my intervention, that building is now at Lenton level. He was putting up apartments. It's an appointee of President Akufo-Addo. Why is the minister running away from that? Dr. Yao Ampuma, who at the time was President Akufo-Addo's appointee at the NDPC. The Sole Inquirer's report is very clear. Why is the minister pretending that agents and assigns, officials of this government, are not engaged in state capture? Dr. Ampuma told the Sole Inquirer, when he appeared before the commission, that he bought the land from Jojo Hagan who government says is on the run, Jojo Hagan, has been indicted by the sole inquirer as the one who did the demolition. And Dr. Mpuma has told the commission that he bought the land from Jojo Hagan, paid him. But he cannot find Jojo Hagan. Immediately he paid Jojo Hagan. He can't find him and cannot produce him. And as we speak, only yesterday I put out fresh intercepted documents. And this is the Land Valuation Division of the Lands Commission, their report of 22nd December 2023. With your permission, let me just read the last paragraph.
Go ahead.
This is a summary of the basis and procedure undertaken to arrive at the value of 5,383,000 Ghana cedis for the property. And this is signed by Dr. Theodora M. Mentz. So as we speak, because of this mindless demolition, Ghana has been saddled with a 5.3 million Ghana cedis financial loss. So even though the sole inquirer says that Jojo Hagan should pay, because you see, in the case of the Nigerian High Commission, our taxes was used to compensate the Nigerians. Again, the lands minister is running away from that fact. In this case, the sole inquirer says, look, this is becoming one too many. Let's hold these mindless demolishers responsible and spare taxpayers. But as we speak, it's been more than 2 years. They claim they can't find Jojo Hagan. President Akufo-Addo's appointee at the NDPC says he cannot find Jojo Hagan after paying him. So the Bulgarians, they had a meeting with me not too long ago as ranking member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, former ranking member now. Now I'm going to chair the Government Assurance Committee. They are saying that their patience has run thin. That if they cannot find Jojo Hagan, is the government of Ghana's obligation to find Jojo Hagan. If you can't find him, then just pay us. And you think that Abu Jinapor will use his personal resources, or President Akufo-Addo will use his personal resources? It's going to be our taxes. It's not a new matter. The lands minister cleverly avoids this mess and wants to create the impression that I am introducing new matters. Were we not all in this country when it emerged that our forests, our Ramsar sites, have ended up in the will of an appointee of President Akufo-Addo, Sir John? Were we not all in this country? When you listen to the lands minister this morning, it's as if he is some great defender of our land, and that all this state capture that we are talking about is a figment of our imagination. Now let's come to the Parks and Gardens lands. Every expose I make and every matter I raise, I make sure that Parliament delves into it. So when I discovered documents that the Parks and Gardens land at cantonments has been sold, and that there is a gentleman called Reverend Ezekiel of Danny Ike Real Estate Developers asking the staff at Parks and Gardens to just move out, and has gone to put containers there, that he is going to develop the place, I filed an urgent question directed at the Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development.
Okay.
I have the Hansard here, 4th July 2024. And it's here. Mr. Samuel Kujato Ablakwa, NDC Northton. Mr. Speaker, I beg to ask the Honorable Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development what the ministry is doing to protect lands belonging to the Department of Parks and Gardens in Accra and other parts of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, this is because of recent claims by some private developers of having secured title to the Department of Parks and Gardens land, particularly within the cantonments area. Response: Minister for Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development, Mr. Martin Kweku Ej Mensah Kosa, MP.
Okay.
Then this is what the local government minister told Parliament. Mr. Speaker, in 2022, I had the privilege to undertake a comprehensive inventory of all assets, including lands that belong to the department, with officials of the ministry and other officers of the Department of Parks and Gardens. Following this development, a report was prepared, and it captured all the lands under the aegis of the Department of Parks and Gardens, and by extension, the ministry, to ensure a holistic approach to the protection of public vested lands, such as the lands belonging to the department, the ministry has consulted with stakeholders, particularly the Lands Commission, to assess the executive instrument that secure these lands to ward off any unscrupulous persons encroaching on the lands. Mr. Speaker, indeed, we have also collaborated with all the regional coordinating councils to engage their respective regional lands commissions to undertake the necessary steps to protect all lands belonging to the department. Mr. Speaker, to fiscally secure these lands, the ministry is taking measures to provide a fence by walling the lands to prevent any encroachment. Currently, as the Honorable Minister, I am still pursuing the matter and engaging all stakeholders to protect and secure the titles of these lands, especially those that do not have one. In the particular case, and this let's pay rapt attention to this. In the particular case of the Department of Parks and Gardens, land in cantonments, the recent claimant of the portion of the land indicated that he acquired a title to the land in contention, but could not produce same after he took the matter to court. The court subsequently dismissed the case and requested the plaintiff to re-enter the case with the proper documentation. Mr. Speaker, our checks, however, revealed that the claimant did not have any valid documentation to the land. I wish to state that the land in question has a valid certificate of allocation dated 2nd October 1952 to the Department of Parks and Gardens. Mr. Speaker, the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority, LUPSA, had in 2022 cautioned the general public to stay away from the use of the land for any private development purposes, pursuant to the Land Use and Spatial Planning Act 2016 and its regulations, as well as the Local Governance Act. The usage of green belts, gardens, and parks cannot be altered except through Parliament. In this regard, the ministry is working. Closely with LUPSA to ensure that all the developers and the citizenry adhere to the planning and development permitting processes under the purview of the MMDS. Then,
you wrap up,
then he continues. Mr. Speaker, regarding the department's lands in Wa, for instance, I wish to confirm that the certificate of allocation dated 27 November 1975 has also been retrieved from the Lands Commission. In this regard, the ministry has served notice to reclaim the encroached land of the department in the Upper West region, which has been encroached upon by a developer to be used for the setting up of a fuel filling station. Then my first supplementary question. Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend the Minister for his objective response. My first supplementary question is to find out from the Honourable Minister if he is aware that this private developer, whom he has rightfully informed this House of not having a title to the land, has gone to place 2 containers at the department's land and is harassing the management of the department that he wants to take over and begin construction. Is the Honourable Minister aware of that fact? And what is he doing to get the containers out of there to protect the management and staff of the department? Then the Minister responds, Mr. Speaker, indeed I can confirm my knowledge of the 2 containers that the claimant put there. Immediately it came to our attention. We mobilized to remove one of them and threw it out. But subsequently the court action came. Subsequently to that action, and now that it is no longer in court, we intend to remove the other one as quickly as possible so that the place will be cleared for use by the state. These are the facts. So you have a situation where the local government minister is telling us something different, totally different.
Okay.
Then the lands minister is also seeking to create the impression that what I am putting out is not factually accurate.
Hold on a minute.
Now,
just hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Let me bring an Akumia in at this point. I'll get back to you.
No, I think I should just wrap up this particular...
In less than a minute.
Yeah,
Yes,
in less
because
than
we
a
need to go to the Akumia.
Now, I have a document here, July 19, 2021. And it's from LUPSA, the Land Use and Spatial Planning Authority. In 2021, this government sought to construct a 5-story local government ministry office complex at the cantonment's land. The question I ask is, if that land had been sold by President Mahama, how come 2021, 5 years after, you wrote this letter, your municipal chief executive, Ladade Kotopon, seeking to vary the certificate of allocation, the 1952 certificate of allocation. And LUPSA denied them. If you read this letter, LUPSA said that no, we will not grant you the approval. I remember there were agitations, environmentalists and all of that rose up and said, no, don't do away with that only horticulture zone we have in the capital and convert it into a Ministry of Local Government 5-story office complex. LUPSA then issues this letter, July 19, 2021, signed by Kwejo Yeboah, the acting head of LUPSA,
Okay.
that the government cannot proceed, they will not grant approval to vary the allocation certificate. So, what the lands minister is putting out really does not add up. And you see, this whole business of state capture is real. We see it on a daily basis. Only 2 days ago, occupants of Roman Ridge flats, they were invited to a meeting at the Works and Housing Ministry. The chief director told them that they have to prepare to move, that the Accra redevelopment policy has caught up with them. Private developers are going to take over. It is real. We see it.
Okay.
So why don't we have a national discussion?
Hold on 1 minute for me. Hold on 1 minute for me.
On
Let me
state
bring
capture.
Yes, let me bring in
and
an
see
Akumi
how we stop the wanton dissipation of this. Let me conclude by this Supreme Court judge's observation. It's just one paragraph. When I went to court on the Jacobeche Bilamte matter, this is Justice Adenyira, and this morning you heard the lands minister talk about the Accra redevelopment scheme. This is what Justice Adenyira said. Quote, I wish to state by way of obiter that the Accra redevelopment scheme of residential properties policy, as implemented by both the Rawlings and Kufuor administrations, has not been wholly satisfactory and has raised a lot of negative comments and issues of morality from the populace. The implementation of this scheme has dislodged a lot of government and public officials from their homes to give way to luxury apartments which only a few Ghanaians can afford to rent or buy. I will stress that since these public lands were initially used to provide housing for government and other public officials, space should be made available to decently house these officials, most of whom hold sensitive positions and thus need adequate privacy and security. Unquote.
Thank you very much. Let me bring in Nana Akumi. Yes, Nana.
Well, let me just take half a minute to deal with the earlier part of Samuel Kujato's submission. Now, the reviews, yes, they've been negative, particularly in the reviews that Sammy talked about, Moody's and so on. They've been negative, 2020 and particularly 2022, when we had the COVID and the international fiscal crisis. But you know that of late, they've been a bit more positive. The banking sector is growing quite well. We look at bank profitability, so we get it into financial stability, and with the downward trend of interest rates and so on, funding will be available for businesses. We have been through a crisis. We all agree, 2020 and 2022, and we are coming out of it. There's the negative consequences worldwide, not just Ghana. A couple of weeks ago, Lord Boatin was here telling us that there was no country in the world which has not been hit by massive food inflation, including his own country, Britain. So we have been through a difficulty, and we all admit it. But we are coming out of it. Bawumia in the media, look, the plan that we have for Bawumia, everywhere that he goes, there's an engagement with the media, and there's an engagement with the community. So he's not dodging the media. And so, Sami, you people should move away from that propaganda that Bawumia is dodging the media. And this business about Bawumia's ideas and how good they are and why is he not implementing them? Well, it's a good question. It's a good question. But why didn't President Mahama, as president, implement 24 hours? Because he was president. Nothing stopped him or stood in his way in implementing whatever ideas he had. So he's now telling us that if you vote for me again as president, I will do A, B, C, D, including the famous or infamous 24-hour. But why didn't he do that when he was president? So we are looking forward, and the Ghanaians want a way out. And that's the message that we are giving them, and we are sure that will prevail at the end of the day. Now, this business about land. Listen, if there has been some impropriety in the giving away of state land, let's deal with it. If there's been impropriety, if there has been some undervaluation, if there has been some procedural inefficiencies and so on, let's deal with it. But this business of state capture that Samuel Kujato is very fun, what does it mean? Does it mean when somebody politically exposed acquires state land, then it's state capture? If that is the case, then it cuts across the political divide. Like the land minister promised you. And I'm sure if he did that and he showed you people who are politically exposed, who have acquired state lands, you will see that they cut across the divide. So if we are going to look at it, and we're going to put the position out there that politically exposed persons should not be engaged in these activities, then it has to be multi-partisan. When you try to pigeonhole one regime, that's when you run into difficulty. Because I'm very sure Samuel Kujato himself knows that state lands have been acquired by many individuals, including politically exposed persons, both NPP, NDC, CPP, and so on. So don't attempt to pigeonhole one regime. Now, you remember the Accra redevelopment scheme? I'm sure you are aware. That was introduced in 1999 by the Rawlings government, that these lands that are state lands, those days that they were acquired, they were the outskirts. I mean, you went to Osu, they give you the land, today's cantonment. They were forest with wild animals. When the colonial people went there, they were able to do, the one person would take 1 acre and put up a small, what we call a bungalow on pillars, 3-bedroom bungalow. And the boys' quarters is 40, 50 meters away for the servants and so on. Today, those parts have become the most prized lands. They are no more the outskirts. And their use, the utilization, has become outmoded. That you have prime land sitting in the middle of the city with a bungalow, 3-bedroom bungalow sitting on stilts with some boys' quarters 40 meters away in the middle of the city. So in 1999, the Rawlings government brought up the Accra redevelopment scheme. Said that these lands have to be, the land use should change. So to give them out to people, individuals, companies, who would go by the new land use, which is the development of multi-housing. That to have a 3-bedroom bungalow sitting on 1 acre in cantonments, Roman Ridge, Labone, and so on, wasn't the proper way to use that land. When you can put up housing for 50 people. And so the scheme came up, the Accra redevelopment scheme. And since then, those properties have been let out to individuals and companies. And when you go to this place and you see all these high-rise, 100-unit high-rise, 200-unit high-rise, it's because of that scheme. In the process, some people may also have acquired land who are politically exposed. Okay? And they cut across from 1999. If the way they acquired them, there's some impropriety, let's deal with it. Expose the impropriety and let's deal with it. If there's no impropriety, but merely because they are politically exposed persons, let's deal with it objectively, not pigeonhole it like it's just one regime. There are people who were offered land or they had the opportunity to get some of these lands by virtue of their positions and so on, who refused because they thought that it didn't just sit right with them. But there are other people who acquired it because that was the plan, that was the program. Okay, so let's exactly know what we are dealing with and be objective about it. And then we can have a national consensus, a national discussion. But when you try and say that it's these people, this group of people, and they are engaged in state capture, But then a lot of people on your side and other places have also acquired land. So what do? So don't partisan the debate, because then you make it NPP and NDC and then nothing comes out of it. I don't see where the contradiction between the Minister of Land and the Minister for Local Government is. As Samuel Kujeto was speaking, I was trying to see the contradiction. What he read from the Hansard, the Minister for Lands the Minister for Local Government came to Parliament to talk about the status of some of this land that Samuel Kujeto had questioned him about, the Wa land, and he said there was an issue about the propriety and so on, and the cantonments, parks and gardens, and he said that there was some difficulty with the way that the allocation was done, isn't it?
Yes.
But the Minister for Lands specifically wanted to deal with this issue of state capture, which was being leveled against the current government. And he came to talk about the particular lands that Okujeto had mentioned. He said the parks and gardens at cantonments opposite the DVLA, it was leased out to a developer in 2016. Whether there are difficulties with the Minister for Local came to talk about the difficulties with the lease and all of that, and how he was going to correct it. The Minister for Local Government was talking about the period of the lease, and he says that it was in 2016. So you cannot put it down as an evidence of state capture by current government officials.
But he makes the point that by 2021, the Ministry of Local Government wanted to put up an office there. And the ministry says, the developer, the current developer, went to court and was unsuccessful. So why would he still go ahead? And why is that not captured in the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources reaction?
The Minister for, like I said to you, the Minister for Lands and Natural, and I heard him speak. He says he was focused on dealing with the allegation of state capture. And his approach was to show you that this particular land that you said is an example of state capture was allocated or was leased in 2016. So you cannot assign it as an evidence of state capture to the current government. That was his focus.
Yeah.
If there have been difficulties with the assignment, the lease, that's a separate issue. And that was what, if I listen to Samuel Kujeto, what the Minister for Local Government was addressing. Then Samuel Kujeto also mentioned some judicial service land is supposed to be at Fifth Circular at cantonments, and obviously use it as an example of state capture with current government people acquiring that place. And the Minister for Lands has been at pains to point out that that particular land mentioned by Samuel Kujeto was leased out in 2015. So you cannot use that as an example of state capture. You cannot assign it to current government officials. I don't know if the people who bought it in 2015 and who bought the parks again in 2016 I don't know their political affiliation. But if you're going to use those lands as example of state capture, you'll be wrong, because they were not even done at the period of this government. He talks about the prison service, which prison service land at cantonments. I think that's what they call the Bostal Institute. I don't know if that's the same place.
Yeah, at Rich, yeah.
That's a Roman Ridge.
Roman Ridge.
Okay. He says that was leased out. That's the Minister for Land. See, that was leased out in 2005. So you cannot use that as an example of state capture by people in the current government. He talked about the Wa land, the parks and gardens at Lawa. He said that was leased in 2020. So you can see, and then the Dubois, the Minister for Land says that as far as the records available to him show, it has not been sold or leased out. He has to just provide those records. But so I don't see the contradiction. The local government minister was talking about the propriety or the situation with the lease. The Minister for Lands was talking about the period of the lease, and in support of his argument that you cannot focus on one regime and say these are examples of state capture. Okay. And that supports my earlier assertion that land since 19 1999 when this Accra redevelopment scheme came about. And you know, as part of the Accra redevelopment scheme, where they will give 2 acres to a developer who put up a 10-story high-rise, there was another policy called infilling. The infilling were small portions of land, like an acre divided into 4 plots, which will not be suitable for a private developer, and they will sell them to individuals and so on. For me, the value, where they sold at the correct values, was the procedure that was used. Was it above board? If the value is correct and the procedure is correct and people have bought them, so be it.
Okay.
And you would see that people who have taken advantage of this so-called infilling policy, you will see that they cut across the political divide. Did they go through the right process? Was the valuation done well? If the valuation wasn't done well, then of course the state has been shortchanged. Let's show that. Let's let the records come and see how much did this property go? How much is the valuation? How much was it bought for? Then we'll be making progress. If we don't want politically exposed persons to buy anything to, let's be clear. But let's not try and pigeonhole one government.
Okay. So let's continue with the conversation. Honorable Ablakwa, you wanted to make a quick intervention. Yes.
Yes. So let me remind Nana Komia, I'm sure as for our listeners, they do recall. I am the one who stated long ago that Ghana needs a public assets protection bill. And I announced right here on this show many weeks ago that I have engaged lawyers led by Professor Kweku Azar, and that I am sponsoring a private members bill known as the Public Assets Protection Bill. Indeed, the bill, I can confirm to you on the show this morning that the bill is ready now. Next week, we are going to start with public engagement, stakeholder consultations, and we are going to elicit input from the general public. The Public Asset Protection Bill, we are seeking to prohibit all politicians and politically exposed persons, including other key top officials, senior government officials, whether they are ministers, deputy ministers, heads of government department agencies, judiciary members, judges, other judicial officers, high-ranking military officials, senior officers in the armed forces, state-owned enterprise executives, CEOs, other board members of state-owned enterprises, regulatory and supervisory authorities, officials in regulatory bodies that oversee public procurement and asset management, immediate family members, when we talk about the politically exposed persons, so spouses, children, parents, siblings, entities with controlling interests, companies, organizations, where these public officers hold significant ownership or control. So, I have consistently said that the abuse cannot continue, and that this must affect everybody, whether you are an NPP politician, NDC politician, CPP, what have you. What I also like about this Public Assets Protection Bill is that we are going to create a registry where all state assets will be published. Do you know, Winston, if you ask how many bungalows do we have in Ghana today, public bungalows, they can't tell you.
Quick one. The objects of your proposal.
Yes.
Is it to say that state assets
Yes.
should never be sold, or that they can be sold, but to private individuals?
So we are saying that if there is justification and there's public consensus that a particular state asset can be sold, you can go ahead, but politicians are prohibited. And then if you leave office 5 years minimum, you cannot engage in the purchase of a state asset. That's what we are proposing.
So you've drafted it already?
Yes, it's ready. And this week we
Have
are
you
going
submitted
to
to...
so we filled the forms in Parliament. We are going through the various processes. So I was talking about the registry that we are going to have,
But
a
if
database.
anyway, we're not debating your
Yeah.
report. But
So-
for my money, for my money, if you say that politically exposed persons should not buy properties, but the properties can be sold, people will just go behind people. So the criteria should be the transparency. The rules should be
it's
established.
all in here. Yeah.
Anyway, but
It's all in here, and that is why. And I'm excited.
It's a good
I'm
thing.
excited about your input. We'll invite you. We'll invite you to the session. We'll invite civil society so that we can all make input. And there's growing support for this across the aisle, across the divide. And I'm sure that we'll have a lot of NPP MPs who will support us. I was talking about the registry that we will create, where we can have all status. Do you know in Parliament? Yes, I have been asking, how many lands do we even have left? This list of all those who have purchased land since 1992, I asked a question. Honorable Kwame Agboja asked a question. The lands minister, for years.
He says he's prepared to make it available.
Oh, please. I don't believe that. The last time,
no, but he said it here.
Oh, in Parliament, do you know what he told us?
What did
he
he
said
say?
that, hey, people be careful. If I publish this list, all of us, the political class, will go down. And some of us said, so what? Let's go down. So what? We will not be blackmailed into some fear of the unknown. Look, I always say that if you engage in any public conduct, state assets, deals, and all of that, and you fear that if it comes out, why? Was the value low? You can't defend the value? It wasn't transparent? Then you have yourself to blame. And don't expect us to come and defend you just because you belong to a political party.
Okay.
So look, the way
now he
forward,
says you publish, so hold him
yes,
to it.
So
Yes.
we'll hold him to it.
Hold
And
him
I'm
to
glad that we are going to be in charge of government assurance. It's one of the first things we'll be working on. He must come and produce that list. He assured Parliament more than 2 years ago that list will be published. It has to be published. Now, let me quickly say that all the state capture cases, I stand by them. There were one, he has confirmed. Except that now what he's telling us in the new statement he issued is that they've gone to do rezoning. Rezoning without recourse to the local government ministry? When did he do that rezoning? And I know the interest that they have in that wild land. I know. If they don't stop it and they don't follow what Parliament has asked them to do, Parliament has told them
But he's told you
to
that-
go and demolish that fuel station.
But he told you that a fuel station has been built.
So what? They had absolutely no basis. He knows that when he was granting the lease, he shouldn't have done that. And they are shielding the owner of the fuel station. I have all the facts.
You see a politically
And I know
exposed
what,
person.
yes,
He's an NPP
very
person.
exposed. I know what is going on.
How about the judicial service?
They should
land?
go and demolish that. The fuel station. Look, we are not going to allow parks and gas. Already our river bodies are gone. The few green spaces we have, what kind of suicidal mission is this? We will not accept it.
How about the judicial service land?
Judicial service. I'm so excited about
cantonments.
the judicial service matters that have come up.
He said it was leased in 2015.
That is what he claims. But you see, in that same statement that he issued, if you pay regard to paragraph 25 to paragraph 27, the minister says that on the 27th of June 2017, on the instruction of the president, they withdrew all the leases, including the ones to Frames Oil and 23 others. So you withdraw the leases, we applaud you. I am not going to defend. I think that whoever engaged in this when we're in power, because a lot of, even I can tell you, top NDC people were not aware of this.
Aware of
And
what?
that is why I say that
Aware
look,
of what?
this shenanigans around.
Yeah,
You
but-
know, it wasn't handed over. The bungalows were not demolished, but clearly people at Lands Commission
This
had
is the
done
judicial
this.
service
Yeah, the
land.
judicial service land.
Okay.
So they had done this quietly on the blind side of leadership of the NDC when we're in power, hoping that when these judges retire and they leave the bungalows, then they take over.
Well, Honorable Blackwell, he talks about the fact that, point 27, paragraph
Yeah,
27
yeah,
says,
I'm coming there.
following the submission of the committee's report,
Yeah.
the then Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, by a letter dated 28th of December 2017, directed that the lease granted to Frames Oil in the year 2015, together with 7 other leases that had been cancelled pursuant to the directive of the President, be restored, and the lease was accordingly restored.
Fantastic. That's where I'm coming to. And if you read paragraph 26, the paragraph before, they say that the then minister, John Peter Mewu, on the 22nd of September, set up a committee. Then, paragraph 27, they decided to restore the lease. This time, not to 23, but to Frames Oil and 7.
Yes.
So, what is happening then now, including the current demolitions, and how Frames Oil and their collaborators defied an injunction of 28 November 2023, is because of the lease that President Akufo-Addo granted on the 28th of December 2017 by the minister's own fact. So look,
the lease that was
you
restored.
have, yes, the lease that was restored. You've done something commendable on the 27th of June 2017. I will have applauded. You have heard me applaud. I have, for example, applauded the Ghana Prison Service publicly.
But not to cut you.
No,
From
you
what you are saying.
I've applauded the Ghana Prison Service. Just a second. I've applauded the Ghana Prison Service. They are engaged in a battle of their lives over the Boston Institute land. They are taking on the senior advisor to Dr. Baumia. And again, in Abu Jinapur's statement, he says, one Professor Edu, as if he doesn't know him. That's your colleague in government, a politically exposed person. Baumia, senior advisor, seeking to take over the Boston Institute land at Roman Ridge.
Which he bought in 2005.
2005, under President Kufuor. And it doesn't matter when he bought it. He now wants to, according to the prison service people, they have gone to demolish their fence, and he's seeking to take over. They are in court. I invited the Interior Minister to Parliament on the 5th of July. The Interior Minister assured us that he will support the prison service to secure that land. These are politically exposed persons.
Okay.
Then back to what the facts are surrounding the judicial service land. So you have done something commendable, just as I have commended the Ghana Prison Service and the local government minister for what he has done to protect Pass and guard this land. I would have been commending you for what you've done 27 June 2017. There was no NDC meeting, no cabinet meeting, no NDC Congress. We said that go and do this. So we will have commended what you did in June 2017.
Okay.
But then in December 2017, you go and restore, this time not to 23, but to 7 and Frames Oil. And they defy a court injunction last year, demolish these judges' bungalows. All of that happened now.
Hold on 1 minute.
There's small caveat that I wanted to put out to Sami regarding this judicial service land. Mm-hmm. So the fact is that they were given out in 2015. A new government came in.
There was no takeover.
The new government came in 2017.
Yeah.
From the narration of the minister, the leases were reviewed. The ones that
initially withdrawn on the 27th of June.
The ones that were found not to be tenable were not allowed. You said how many? 15. How many were reviewed?
So 23 plus Frames Oil, so that will be 24.
24 were reviewed.
Yes.
And 7 allowed.
7 plus 1. Yes,
so 8.
8. So about 16 were not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
This is a review.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How is that state capture?
But you restored it.
You restored to what? To 7, 8.
You restored.
How
to
is
8.
that state capture?
You are aware of so many of these leases that were outrightly cancelled. You are aware.
Because at the end of the review, are you prepared to accept that after the review, some of them were found not to be tenable?
I have filed a question demanding the full report of this Amewu committee.
So let's move on.
Because we want to know the content.
So let's move on.
When we talk about state capture happening, but very quickly on Du Bois. Du Bois.
I can give you only 1 minute.
I have all the documents here on Du Bois. This is the agreement signed on the 22nd of September 2023 by Shirley Ayokoboche, Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, Attorney General and Minister for Justice, 22nd September 2023. I am surprised that the Lands Minister says that he's not aware of what his colleague cabinet ministers have done. The other signatories here are Japhet Ayiku of the Museum Foundation Ghana, Humphrey A. Dake, and one Deborah Rose. It's here. I'll give you a copy. And it says, agreement between Government of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, and W.E.B. Du Bois Museum Foundation, Ghana, for the finance, management, and transfer of the W.E.B. Du Bois Center. And when you read this, the Du Bois Center has been transferred to this private foundation for 50 years. And I have other documents here. The president has written to them that he is going to honor their invitation on the 27th of June. This is a letter, you can read it, dated 6 May 2024, that he's going to attend the event. I have another document here, July 8, 2024. signed by the Chief Director, for the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, reminding the Du Bois Foundation of the obligations that they should come and show the $30 million in their accounts and all of that, so that the site will be handed over to them. It's here. You can read this letter, July 8, 2024, signed by John Yao Agbeko. So I'm not making any
For them
story
to
up.
manage the center.
So it's a finance, management, and transfer. They will take control of the center.
For 50
For
years.
50 years.
My quick comment is this, and Sammy, I'm sure you'd agree.
Yeah.
This business about leasing out land to private investors, it's been with us since 1999. The entire airport city, it was public lands. It's been leased out to private investors because there's a redevelopment scheme, and government will not be able to execute that redevelopment scheme. The entire airport city
So
has
why-
been leased out
so
to
why would
private.
the lands minister issue a say
no,
that
one second.
what I said is false?
No, 1 second. So
The minister was
the
categorical.
issue about giving it to a private investor for redevelopment, according to a plan, cannot amount to state capture. If there's some impropriety or it will change the nature of the place and so on, we can raise issues.
Okay.
Yeah, I've
Now,
major issues.
my last point is
Yeah,
that
oh,
the minister,
yes.
the minister for lands, you says this agreement was signed by Attorney General.
Yes,
and
the foreign minister, 22nd September.
maybe that's where the minister for lands is coming from, because per his, I mean, if you, I don't know what the
Yeah,
law
but he
is,
shouldn't
but
accuse
but
me
he
of lying.
No, he says that as far as the records show, and he's in charge of the records, he's in charge of lands, and these are public lands. So it's an issue that the minister should look at. If his colleagues have signed something and the records have not changed and so on, it's something that we can deal with. There's
Okay.
no problem.
So the minister should go and,
I'm interested
he
in
should go and amend
that.
his records and stop calling us liars. Yeah.
His records do not show that the place has been sold
But it's
out or
been
leased
signed.
out.
The people are prepared
So
to take
let's
that.
move on.
The
Let's move
president
on.
is going to
Honorable
attend
Ablakwa.
the event.
Honorable
The president
Ablakwa.
has confirmed
Honorable Ablakwa, hold
with
on.
this letter
Hold on,
that he's
hold on.
going to
Honorable
attend the
Ablakwa.
handover
No,
event.
let's move on.
Yes,
Because
we can move on.
you in Parliament and your colleagues wanted to have an LI passed where, as members of Parliament, one, you can have sirens fitted on your vehicles. Two, you don't have to adhere to speed limits. Ghanaians are saying, what in God's name would convince you, the representatives of the people, and you complain about all the work you have to do, instead of holding the executive accountable and making sure the executive fixes some of these problems, you're rather trying to insulate yourself from the problems. Why?
So, Winston, this should be an opportunity for us to really shed light on how Parliament works. The way you have framed your question, it will create the impression as if all of us are in on this. and
Well,
we're part of this.
the Speaker's Committee, Subsidiary Legislation Committee,
Yeah, I mean,
and when
look,
it was
before,
brought to
before God and man,
Yeah,
even as we speak, I haven't seen that LI. MPs were not giving copies. We haven't debated this. You know how these things are done. So, under the Constitution, the minister will bring the LI. The Speaker then refers it to Subsidiary Legislation Committee. Once the committee is satisfied with their work and they come and lay it, that's it. 21 days, it matures, it becomes law. Not too long ago, I took on colleagues over passport fees when Foreign Affairs Committee had not done deliberating, scrutinizing it, and then whilst we were waiting for the Foreign Ministry to come back, they go to subsidiary legislation. It's laid at 21 days, it matures, it becomes fees. I have placed on record my total objection and disgust at how we were treated on that matter. But it is a fundamental problem with how our constitution is framed and how these allies are worked on. So it goes to subsidiary legislation, is laid. There is no opportunity for all of us as a house to know the content, to debate it.
He went through pre-laying.
Before
Pre-laying.
pre-lay is just a few people at subsidiary legislation committee.
Not the entire committee?
No, normally it's not even the entire committee. So let's be clear. I can confirm to you that when this matter became public on our platforms, I can share messages with you. There are many MPs who said, what is this? We are seeing this for the first time. It was Franklin Kujo who put it out. I said, can this be true? And there were protests. MPs were not happy. That is why our caucus leader had to issue a statement. Will you believe that even the leadership of our caucus didn't know the content of this?
But on the 14th of June, the minority chief whip, you can be heard saying that the chairman of the subsidiary legislation committee is actually told him that their concerns have been addressed. And those concerns, the Ministry of Transport say, was to have members of parliament and ministers of state included in there.
Again, Winston, you are only confirming what I'm saying.
All
those concerns,
the minority chief whip,
all those
his head on the floor. So he's leadership.
Dr. Atuforsen, the minority leader, has told us he had no knowledge. And that's why he signed that statement, asking the ministry to come withdraw it, that will not support it. And he has since issued a memo to leadership of all committees that before any matter is finalized and laid on the floor, they should let him see it. I've received my copy of that memo. So, look, I have said publicly that I don't support this. I think it's needless. I've been chasing this transport ministry. Nana Komia will confirm to you elsewhere on our Friday banter on Metro TV. Buankra, I've had urgent questions. I am demanding answers. As we speak, there is a looming $3.6 billion judgment debt over the minister's conduct. He's put aside what Parliament approved, the concessionary agreement, and on his own is engaged in a lot of illegal conduct. I have been looking for him on that. I think that that's what he should be addressing. We are all concerned about congestion on our roads. Why not fix the congestion? Why not ease the burden for everybody? Why do you want to take the ruling class out? And I've seen that from what has been put out in the media, they've even added security operatives, cyber security, intelligence, and all of that. It's such a wide ambit. We don't need that. We don't need that. And you see, this is what we do consistently and create the impression that we want to create for ourselves a second world, and that the problems confronting the people on the ground, we don't want to be part of the solution. Whose job is not important? Who doesn't have sensitive roles? Who doesn't contribute to the national economy?
Your colleagues say they have a lot of meetings. Sometimes you have a meeting in Parliament, you have one at Pediase, so they have to move.
We all know that if we must move in a group to a meeting, and there are times that it's an emergency, we know what to do within a certain limited scope. So this is so needless. It's a useless distraction. And I'm surprised that such a thing was even brought to the House in the first place and contemplate. Look, Winston, are you aware that other countries, they are walking away from this? In Nigeria, the floodgates became so widely open that even spouses, children, friends, business people, religious leaders, virtually everybody, business people, everybody who considered himself important, and they have been clamping down in Nigeria, reducing the people who are qualified under law.
Okay.
In Kenya, when the Gen Zs rose up, the new sheriffs in town, they have walked away from it. So why do we want to just provoke the citizenry needlessly? Things that other countries are walking away from, dangers that they are running away from, we are inviting it upon ourselves, embracing it. So look, this whole thing, I think that it's a needless distraction. I know there are many, many colleagues. And my good friend, Dr. Ayeni, we sit together. He sits on my right-hand side in Parliament. I've expressed my views to him. And it's really just unfortunate that this whole matter, came about.
So
but
are you saying you didn't even know?
We didn't know. It wasn't discussed at caucus. No, it wasn't discussed on the floor. It wasn't discussed.
Let me ask Samuel Kujeto one
Yeah.
small question.
Yeah.
You sit next to
Yes.
Ayini.
Yes. Yeah. My good.
He's the
friend.
chairman of the subsidiary committee.
Yes, he is.
Has he issued a statement accepting responsibility for that?
He has. It's a story on my online.
Yeah, I think he granted an interview, not a statement, but an interview.
So he has admitted responsibility.
Yeah, that it came before them at their
For me,
committee.
that is the crux of the matter. The hypocrisy of the NDC. And this is what I was talking about earlier. All of you, as Parliament, the subsidiary committee is a committee of Parliament. The Ministry of Transport brings an ally on traffic management. At the pre-laying session before the subsidiary committee, you impress upon the ministry to include members of Parliament in the exemption.
Yeah, but Nana, how does it become hypocrisy of the NDC?
Well, I'm coming. I haven't finished.
I'm not a member of that committee.
Oh, can I get 2 seconds, please?
Please go ahead.
So, the Ministry of Tourism, Transport, brings its draft ally. There's a pre-laying session. Before it's laid, pre-laying means before it's laid on the floor, there has to be a meeting with the particular committee, which in this case was the subsidiary committee. At that meeting, you impress upon the ministry to add members of Parliament. There's a public backlash. The NDC then tried to take themselves out of it. Oh, we don't know about it. We are against it. So there's an attempt to put it on government. That is government that is bringing an airline.
That was
to
a minority
exempt members
leader
of Parliament.
statement. But
Yes.
Roxanne Dapiameko and others were defending
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Defending what?
Defending
Yeah,
the
them-
airline.
those who were at the subsidiary legislative committee, they were defending their act.
But I'm saying,
So-
you see, so I am
So
not.
I used to say that everything that a member of the NPP somewhere does, you
No,
support
I
it,
haven't said that.
and you
I-
must
I-
go
I'm
with it,
saying
even
that-
if you disagree with
I'm
it.
saying that it's you NDC people who go on that track. And that's why I was even cautioning you about this matter of state capture. You see, I could say to you that the subsidiary legislation is chaired by the NDC.
Yeah.
So if anything goes through that committee, then that whatever goes through there is inspired from the NDC. But I wouldn't say that. Even though the facts clearly show.
But we didn't meet on this.
I haven't said the entire 275 met on it. I haven't said so. I'm saying that this was a decision by a committee of Parliament. That committee, apart from it being chaired by NDC, consists of all members. So if there's a problem, why does one side issue a statement to disassociate themselves from the problem? That's my worry. So then you partisan it. You partisan it. The minority leader issues a statement that, we don't agree. This is not something.
Yeah, because the leader didn't know about the leader.
But
The leader felt
but-
that he had even his leadership has been undermined.
And in
that
fact,
at least he should have been informed
when
as leader of the caucus.
The footage that I saw when Ayini, the chairman, in the chat with the speaker, was assuring the House that what they wanted had been included in the airline for the minister to confirm before they will allow him to lay it. You, Okujeto, I saw you in the footage sitting next to Ayini.
Yeah, I didn't know what was in
Yes,
it because it's
but but fine.
unless it matures, then they give us copies.
fine,
You're a senior member, former senior member of the House.
When it's laid, you have a copy.
No, they don't give us
No,
copies.
no, no.
I still don't have a copy.
When it's laid, you don't have a copy.
No.
When the thing is laid before Parliament, you don't have a
No.
But how can we, the public, got copies and you sitting in the Parliament, don't have a copy? Now I'm saying that.
Oh,
I'm saying that. But
it
you
was
keep
a civil society
you keep interrupting.
official who
Listen,
put it
I'm
there.
saying that. If you say you
We're
didn't know
not giving
about it,
copies.
it's possible you didn't know about it. But I find it a little strange, given your massive oversight role and all of that. But if you don't know about it, it's fine.
Well, as for
you
this,
cannot.
I should have intercepted this document. No problem. I will concede.
The kind of
I was-
documents
yeah.
that are not before Parliament.
I was busy on
But
state
you
capture. I was
managed
busy
to
on
state capture and so on.
I was
You
busy
managed
on
to
state capture.
intercept the one that is before Parliament,
Oh, no,
and where the
yeah.
chairman of the committee is sitting next to you. You didn't intercept. But let's grant you. But I'm
no,
saying
no,
that
yeah.
don't try to partisan it. It's a parliamentary thing. If because of the public backlash you want to remove it, say so and let Parliament itself, not one side, trying to disassociate themselves. That's what I'm saying. It's hypocrisy.
Okay.
And then you partisan the debate.
Thank you very, very much, Nana Akomi, and thank you very much, Samuel Okudito Ablakwa, for joining us this morning. That's all time would allow us here on the Super Morning Show.